And so I went up with my regular ass act and they hated it. And a dude that was sitting at the bar, not even facing the stage, he was watching an NBA game from the back of the room.
Jeez.
He's like staring at the game at the bar, and I'm on stage. I'm like 2 minutes in, bombing hard, and he doesn't even turn around. He's just still watching the game, and he just goes, "Boo, boo,
Oh my God.
boo." And I was like, okay, yeah. I'm gonna go.
That's crazy. Hey Planeteers, my name is Marcos González and this is Inside the Funny or Die Vault. We're going to take a look back at classic Funny or Die videos and talk internet comedy and culture from then to now. My guest today is a comedian, writer, and actor whose latest special, Bad Poetry, is available on Netflix. Langston Kerman, welcome to the Funny or Die Vault.
Yay!
Hell yeah. So before I dive into questions, we're going to talk about the video you chose, which is Captain Planet with Don Cheadle. So for everyone at home who hasn't seen it or hasn't seen it in a while, Don Cheadle plays Captain Planet, and he's summoned by the Planeteers, who are played by Gillian Jacobs, Brenda Song, James Davis, Efren Ramirez, and William Mosley, to stop some bad guys. So basically what Don Cheadle's Captain Planet does is he turns these bad guys into trees, and then as the short sort of progresses, I think he becomes like drunk with power, you know, and just starts like turning babies and pretty much everybody into trees. And at that point the Planeteers are like, bro, you need to chill. And I think he starts calling them dickholes and then leaves.
He turns one of them into a tree too.
Oh yeah.
He like really takes it to a level that I think nobody was anticipating.
Go Planet! Well, Planeteers, what seems to be the problem?
They're cutting down the trees.
Then I guess we'll have to plant some more.
Attaboy, Captain.
Let's spruce this place up a bit, huh?
That's one of my favorite like OG, well, I guess it's not an OG sketch, but one of the first Funny or Die sketches I saw growing up. And I'm curious, what about it made you choose it?
Don Cheadle especially, I think, has like this crazy ability to do comedy in a very sincere way. Like he is kind of always being a real actor, even as he's being hilarious. And so it cracks me up. And even rewatching it, I was like, damn, this is funny.
It's like the ultimate like commitment to the bit. Like he'll just play it so damn serious that you almost have to be like, yeah, dog, he's Captain Planet.
Yeah, he's Captain Planet.
He is
what are you going to
absolutely-
argue with him? That's Captain Planet.
So actually doing research on this sketch, I found something really funny where I guess Don Cheadle was interviewed by GQ at some point in the last 10 years. And they were like, what was shooting that video like? And apparently he came in that day not knowing that he was going to be painted blue.
Sure. Head
Head to toe, which of course is like, you know, it's a lot. And I guess like right before they were about to do his makeup, he was considering just not doing it and leaving. And so I'm curious, if you were in that position, would you have done it?
If I was Don Cheadle, with Don Cheadle money, being asked to do what I presume was a very poorly paid sketch for Funny or Die, I don't know if I would have went through with it. But good for him. That does speak to his character, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad he did it.
He was like, nah, okay, I hate this. I'm going to be miserable for hours and hours while you pay me blue, but I will follow through on my gig.
So the release date of this video was August 29th, 2011. Where were you in your career in 2011?
August 29th, 2011, I had been doing stand-up for a year and a half,
Okay.
I think, and I was probably living in Boston at the time. I started in Chicago, then got into grad school and moved to Boston, and I probably had just moved to Boston because it's August. I went there for grad school. So, like, I had probably been there a few months and was, you know, trying to study poetry during the day and then go tell jokes at night. So I was bombing hard, and I think this sketch probably inspired me in a way that I will never be able to articulate.
Did you start comedy in Chicago? Or did
I
you start
started
when you were
in
Boston?
Chicago, yeah.
Okay,
but
so-
I only did like 9 months there before I ended up moving. So
And was it like, because like I went to college in Boston. Boston is like a very specific type of comedy city, you know? Like Chicago
yeah, it
is like so much
sucks.
more.
I
Yeah,
think is
that's
what
a
the
good way to
word
say it.
you were looking for.
Yeah, I think it sucks. It's, you know, there's a lot more like, I don't know, crass. I don't know, a lot of like meanness to it a bit.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I think the comedy that has been historically born of Boston. There's a lot of great, amazing comedians who are really, you know, awesome. but I do think that the culture of that city is not one that sits well in my spirit.
Yeah,
And I think
that's
it
fair.
does foster sort of a bitier comedy than I think other sort of more welcoming, kind cities do.
So let's rewind to Chicago time.
Yeah.
What about that time period got you into comedy? Was it just like kind of a spur of the moment thing? Did you have any like inspirations?
I graduated college in 2009, and the recession that they said had hit in 2008 really found its legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
was
everybody
walking,
was
yeah.
like, "Oh, 2008's bad." In 2009, everybody was like, "Oh, this is we feel it, and it is permanent." So I left college and thought like I'd get a job in like advertising. I had an English degree and there were no jobs available. Nobody was interested in sort of like whatever garbage I was offering up. And so I moved back home, was living in my mom's basement, and had gotten an assistant teaching job at my old high school. So in some ways it was sort of a Captain Planet of miserable shit all coming together to make me sad. And comedy just felt like, all right, well, I tried everything else. I went to school, I got good grades, I followed the rules. The system itself is broken. I might as well try something that feels completely my own. And if comedy doesn't work, nobody will know. And if it does work, then I'll get to sit on this couch with you someday in this deep, deep chair and talk about
It's cozy,
Captain
it's
Planet.
comfy, man. So did it feel weird, like having started in Chicago, you got like 9 months under your belt, like, you're making all this headway, and like comedy is a lot of like building time in a city. Did
Yeah.
it feel weird to just like uproot and go, all right, look, I'm gonna go get this degree, but I gotta kind of start from scratch in this new place? Was that hard?
Yeah, it sucked. Right? Like, I think
Yeah,
anytime you have to start over, it stinks really bad. I think the one benefit was in Chicago, I was purely an open micer. Nobody was at all interested in what I was doing, and rightfully so. I was very bad at comedy. But when you move to a new city 9 months in and you've only been open micing, when you start hitting the regular open mics in that new city, you seem like a very talented open micer in comparison to everybody else who hasn't seen you all that time. So I think it gave me a slight leg up where it was like, oh, this new dude is better than the average person who we've never met before starting comedy. And so, yeah, I just tried to ride that as much as possible of like, I'm tricking y'all that I'm better at this than I am. But, it took a little while to get my legs for sure.
And I want to talk about too is that this. You said you moved to Boston to get a degree in poetry, right? Mm-hmm. So what spurred that?
Buddy, a lot of bad choices.
Okay.
I always wrote poetry. I participated very actively as a youth in like poetry slams and continued to study poetry in college. And I figured I was actually gonna eventually find myself in education. But for most high school teaching jobs, you need a master's degree. And if I had to get a master's degree, I didn't want to get it in education or some version of an academic space that wasn't that exciting to me. And at least poetry I knew I liked and could have fun with. And so like figured I'd get an MFA in poetry and go teach at a high school somewhere. And I ended up doing that for quite a while, but the poetry degree just felt like a good consolation for like, all right, this isn't going to kill me the same way some of these other degrees would.
Yeah, so that's my next question. So you were studying in Boston while simultaneously doing open mics.
Yeah.
Did the poetry play into your stand-up? Did it help at all? Was it like, because your slam poetry is also performance in a way too. It's like,
yeah.
did it help with like certain aspects of stand-up?
I hope so. Otherwise, what the fuck,
Yeah.
But
You tell me. I don't know, dude.
I think what I do as a stand-up and what I wrote as a poet are very similar in that it is all narrative based. It's taking a true story and then finding spaces of like hyperbole and metaphor and sort of like stretching those stories into something grander than they are. I think the principal base of what my art was and is are kind of the same. And I think poetry certainly performance poetry got me very comfortable on stage and managing a microphone. And then poetry itself got me comfortable with like, oh, how do you take this long idea and then consolidate it into its sharpest, finest words? You know what I mean? And not sort of have all that fat around it kind of thing.
And then so next steps from there. So you graduated,
Yeah.
got the degree. How was stand-up going at that time?
Not good.
Okay.
I would say it's not. I don't know that it's going good now. I
would say it's going pretty well in comparison to Boston. Yeah.
I think the thing with stand-up, especially in its early stages, is that if it is going well, it's still not good. It's just you are feeling inspired to keep going. So I think at that point, I really loved stand-up and wanted to be out every night and was excited to do it. But like I was in Boston and like doing shows at weird hours and at the top of Chinese food restaurants. You know what I mean? Like
Chow Chow City?
No.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'd run the gamut at Chow Chow City, dude.
The Hong Kong and Harvard Square, if you're at all familiar. But
that one's better, dude. Chow Chow City was crazy. You'd be in the middle of a set, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of people would be arrested, like filtered out, because there was always like some sort of illegal gambling thing going on in the background.
Yeah.
And like all these old dudes with cigars would all of a sudden be in like handcuffs, and you'd be like, so yeah, my mom's crazy. You know, it's like
What else? Where the ladies at?
yeah, it's like nothing's more entertaining than a bunch of old men with cigars getting arrested. I'm not gonna top that.
Yeah.
You know? But
Wait, so
that's
you
fun.
started in Boston?
I did college in Boston, but I wasn't really
Yeah.
doing stand up. I tried it. I wasn't good. I was more the character improv
Okay.
or sketch. But I was very like I went to art school, so I was like very it's not filtered, but like very I didn't have to deal with outside Boston, basically.
Sure,
It's
yeah,
sheltered,
yeah.
sheltered. I didn't have to deal with like the way crowds in Boston were, like my sort of stand up counterparts were, and I
Right.
knew that world. Like I'm Puerto Rican. I had diverse friends who were like, you don't want to do stand up here, bro. The crowd skews older white men, and they tend to be not so great.
Yeah.
You know. And I was really lucky that I was just performing with a bunch of like theater kids.
Okay.
And they were like, "Whoa!" You know, it's like
Right,
you, do
you
an
guys
accent,
were
they're
just
like,
affirming each
Yeah.
other and having a good time.
Yeah, like this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, "Is it?" But it's like, you just let them have it.
Good for you for asking
Yeah.
that question. I would have believed him. I don't
Yeah.
know. Right? This is the greatest thing anybody's ever seen.
Yeah, it was goofy, but it was really fun. But I'm obviously glad I left. So Boston, graduated stand up. How did you said you were teaching? Was that like directly after, and was that in Boston, or did you?
Yeah, so I graduated from my MFA program and then immediately got a job at a charter school in Boston teaching high school. So I taught 9th, 11th, and 12th grade English at a charter school for 2 more years in Boston, and then went to New York immediately after and was like doing after school programming and teaching like Kaplan classes, like the SAT prep and weird, like, you know.
Is there a reason that they did 9th, 11th, and 12th, and we're like 10th? Absolutely not. You can't teach 10th grade.
I felt very lucky. The 10th, they were
The
dickheads.
worst? Okay,
so
good.
yeah,
I'm just curious. I'm like, oh, they
I
just
thank
like,
them every
those?
day.
No, you're not allowed to teach those kids. Like,
I think they just had to give me the 11th and 12th were together. Because that's the way the school was set
Oh,
up,
yeah,
where
that's
they took their English classes together. And I think I just got lucky that they gave me the 9th graders and not the
10th.
the 10th
That's
graders.
so funny. Okay,
Yeah.
so question, like during this time, like basically 2011 to what, like 2014, 15.
Yeah.
Like this is like peak internet, like people making videos. Like Funny or Die was popping off. We had God knows how many different. We were talking about Super Deluxe the other day. How did that sort of affect you? Were you like watching that stuff? Was there ever like a part of you where it's like, yes, I'm doing stand up, but I could probably write a video, or I could probably shoot a video. Did that ever occur? Or?
I had a friend. There was this Boston Comedy Festival, which I believe still happens every year. But basically, it's one of the few like stand-up festivals that still exists. That's a competition, right? So like you go, you perform. If you do well, you move on to the next round. If you don't, you're eliminated and you don't participate in the rest of the festival.
Oh,
So
wow.
people are like traveling
It's
from
like American Idol, but comedy.
yeah,
Okay,
but like
cool.
people are traveling from like San Diego and
Oh,
shit.
that's evil. Okay.
And
yeah.
then they do one set and bomb or do fine and get eliminated, and then they've just wasted a trip to Boston. It's a miserable setup. But I had a friend who did well one year. He like competed and had like advanced to like the semifinals, maybe the finals. But MTV, this is back when you know, execs were visiting comedy festivals. MTV, I guess, was in the audience then, and they invited him to New York to come take a general meeting with MTV. And we're in Boston, so we think, well, he made it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what everybody's been dreaming of this entire time.
It's so funny when someone has their first general, they're like, I'm going to Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
It's like,
one
fellas,
general,
it's
that's
been
it.
cool getting to know y'all,
Yeah.
but life's about to change pretty big for your
And now
boy.
you're like, yeah, sure, I'll take a general at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, whatever.
I think I'm gonna be
yeah.
on girl code, fellas,
Yeah.
and everything's gonna be different after that.
That's
but
crazy, yeah.
but he had this general meeting. He goes down to New York, and in the meeting, you know, he's excited. They're excited. They sit down and they go, "All right, man, what do you do?" And he's like, "I do stand-up comedy. You saw it before. Remember, we were in Boston. You loved it. We all agreed. I was very good at stand-up comedy." They were like, yeah. No, you're very funny. What do you do? And then he said, "I do stand-up comedy.
Oh, God.
That's my thing. What are you asking me?" And they were like, "Hey, man, this has been a great meeting. Good meeting you. Good getting to know you." Because he didn't know. He was just like, all right, I'm going to tell him what I do. And then he came back and reported that to me. I was like, oh, shit, I got to start doing other stuff. I got to, you know, I took that to heart of being like, write something, learn to audition, act, pretend at the very least to be able to get in some of these rooms. And so like, yeah, like I think a lot of us, I was very desperate in that era to like get a sketch on Funny or Die or figure out a way to like, you know, build relationships that would ultimately land into being able to play alongside a Don Cheadle type.
It's really funny that like, nobody ever prepares you for those like first meetings. Even when you ever have, like nobody says anything. They're just like, hey,
No.
this person wants to meet with you. And the amount of friends I've had who have like come from stand-up or improv or sketch or online.
Yeah.
And, like in the meeting, they're like, that was great. What ideas do you have? And it's like, what the, like nobody told me to do this. Like,
No.
Now I look like an asshole. You know, it's like, I'm like, I don't know, dude. You know, what'd be funny is if we did a spoof of blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, sure, for real. Like, you can get out of here. You know,
Okay,
it's like,
dum-dum. Thanks
Yeah.
for stopping by.
So you wanted to make these videos because, like, obviously this is like a big push. Everybody's like getting famous off of, you know, YouTube, Funny or Die. Was there like, did you have ideas at that point? Was there anything you made?
Yeah, I bought a DSLR camera, and I think at one point I bought a big penis costume, and I made this. I'm not proud of this. I'm certainly not bragging to you, the viewers at home, but I made a sketch called Bad Dick, where it was just like a penis walking around with like sunglasses, smoking cigarettes, and spitting everywhere. And it was just like, and then at the end it revealed a girl, and she was like, "Hey, he had bad dick," and that was the
That was
bit.
the punch.
That was the punchline.
Does this still exist online?
I hope not, but possibly.
Were you ever like, are you ever worried about things that you've put online where you're like, damn, dude, I really wish someone would delete that?
I am more worried about the embarrassment than I am about like the content. Like, I don't think I have anything out there where people are going to be like, hold him accountable. I think they're going to be like,
You
hey, man,
you're
you
not allowed
sucked.
to be a dick in public. Yeah, you can't just be a, yeah.
You fucking stunk. You were awful.
Yeah, that's my, God, I know that I shot stuff in high school and it has to exist on someone's Facebook video. And I'm so scared because like, you can't just casually find things on Facebook video.
That's
you have to
the-
go to that time period and like through someone's timeline.
But
And
there
then-
are people now whose lives are dedicated to unearthing those things if they care enough
And that's
about
another
it.
thing, dude. I found, I don't think I've ever tweeted anything wrong, but like my biggest fear is like I tweeted something stupid out of context. And someone sent me a thing one time when I was in college where like, check this out. It's an app that logs into your Twitter and deletes everything from that year to this year. And I did
Yeah.
it. And now I have no tweets. I have like 4
Right.
tweets to my name. And I was like, low-key, I'm kind of happy they did that. Cause like, I don't think I said anything stupid, but like, I don't know what like 6th grade Marcos was talking about, dude. I don't know
But
what
also,
stupid thing I saw.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
You, even if you weren't tweeting something
Yeah.
hugely problematic, you weren't nailing it in 2013.
No,
you know what I
it
mean?
definitely.
Like,
But that's the worst part. Is like there is no joke. It's just problematic. Like,
Yeah.
What if it's just a phrase that's problematic at the time and I had no idea? And I'm like, there was not even a joke there. Like, there's no way to save this. It's
my
just like-
fear is somebody's gonna pull up tweets of me being like, "What's up, y'all? How's everybody day going?" And it's like, "Oh, this is a nightmare."
Oh, I've been. That's the Facebook memory shit of it all, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, because it used to be is like it was like Marcos González is, and the is was part of it.
and you filled out the
And
sentence.
then you'd be like, and I'd always be like, tired.
Yeah.
Is watching this show. I wonder if you guys also are watching this, ? And it's like, what the fuck was 4th grade me or 5th grade me? Like, why did I give a shit about any of that?
No, it was
was-
all weirdly like it was like a group assignment that we were all
Yeah.
filling out every day. It stunk.
And
Yeah.
sometimes grammatically different. It's like Marcos González is can't stop watching whatever. It's like it wasn't even like I tried either.
Marcos is dumb.
Yeah, I was
He's
like, can't
dumb.
stop watching Derek comedy. And it's like, and then like, I don't even know what it was like trying to, like it was like derekcomedy.com, but there's no link. It's just like I wrote that out. Really stupid. Okay, so from Boston, you went to New York, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Did things start like, is this when things started picking up, like stand-up wise, or was it just like, I need to change the scenery?
Yeah, I
spice up?
guess
Yeah.
so. In New York, I was still having to teach. I was still very broke, still figuring it out. But in 2014, I started working on this development thing with this production company, and then they had a relationship with Chris Rock, and were attempting to attach him as like an executive on this thing that I was writing. He had zero interest in that, but at the time he was prepping for it's 2015 now, he was prepping for the Oscars.
Yes.
And so they convinced him to come down and see me do stand-up with hopes that maybe that would be like the final nudge of like maybe he'll, want an EP on this thing. He didn't, but he saw me and consented to have me on his writing staff for that Oscars. And so that sort of was like the first bump that I got to be like, oh, maybe this can be a career and not just open micing and doing bad shows until the day you die.
You made him sound so unenthusiastic. He consented.
I think he
was
remains
like that.
unenthusiastic
Really?
about my participation.
So before we jump into the Oscars, that was like your first writing gig, right?
That was
I'm
my
very
first
curious.
ever gig.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I guess
wild.
I had acted in something. I had acted in Clear History, this Larry David HBO
Oh
film.
yeah, that movie. Yeah,
I
I've seen
had
it.
like a very small, like 1 minute scene that I got just off of auditioning in Boston, and they shot it in Boston. So it was like a local hire type situation. But that was the first thing that ever paid me enough that I thought like, oh, there is career money inside of this, a real opportunity.
Damn. So before we jump into the Oscars, I'm really curious, like during your stand-up time, because I just personally like to ask, like best and worst moment as a stand-up, like sort of coming to be. Maybe best could be like a big accomplishment moment where you're like, oh shit, I could actually probably do this as a career. And worst moment, just the worst shit that ever happened. Worst shit that could have ever possibly happened to you. Yeah.
The best I'd say I got to do my first TV set was for Adam DeVine's house party, which they shot in Hawaii that year.
Damn.
And so they flew us all to Honolulu and had us on this like sexy ass resort. And we did like whatever it was, 5 to 7 minutes in front of this Hawaiian audience of like beautiful, vaguely brown people. And it just was awesome. And like all the euphoria you think you're gonna feel from like doing stand up on television, it's the most sort of like high in the moment that I think I felt, even probably to this day. Just because, your first time is always gonna have like a weird extra little flavor to it, but like that was beautiful and like remains like a fond memory in my brain. And worst moment is all the other times. I'd
Every
say.
single other time that it's ever
No,
existed.
I got booed off stage one
Whoa.
time very early on. This dude that I like was, you team up in stand up sometimes, and like this dude that like he was an open micer, I'm an open micer. We like go to open mics together and like figure out shows we could pop on, whatever. And he took me to this show on the south side of Chicago that like it was I think it was called the Checkerboard Lounge or something like that. And he took me there, convinced the dude to like let me do 5 minutes with him. He was gonna go up after I went up. And I went up, and the room probably sits 200 people. There are 18 people scattered in it. And specifically, one of the like tables of people is also another performer who's a dude dressed in all white and wearing a crown. Like he has on like an all white linen suit and he has a crown on and sunglasses. And he's gonna perform like 3 acts after me. He's a rapper. And,
okay. I was like, is that his like bit? Is like,
nah, it would have been funny if it was a bit.
Like,
he meant it and I couldn't make fun of it.
Oh,
you know
shit,
what I mean?
okay, yeah.
Or at least I didn't have the confidence to then. And so I went up with my regular ass act and they hated it. And a dude that was sitting at the bar, not even facing the stage, he was watching an NBA game from the back of the room.
Jeez.
He's like staring at the game at the bar and I'm on stage. I'm like 2 minutes in, bombing hard, and he doesn't even turn around. He's just still watching the game, and he just goes, "Boo, nigga, boo!"
Oh my God.
Boo! And I was like, okay, yeah. I'm gonna go.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like I never hear like people getting booed off. Like I feel like it's like there's always that like flop sweat, you know, like that like okay.
I think I probably did another minute, but his boo initiated the dude being
to push through the boo though. That's impressive. 'Cause
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I think I'd just freeze and then I'd just like shuffle off. Like
I think I knew if I immediately walk off, there's going to be an uproarious laughter from these 18 people, and I at least need to be able to like dodge the boo a little bit and figure out a different solution. But I didn't. I bombed more. I just kept going, which whatever.
So let's but then you know, there was a golden path, like a greener pasture. You got into writing, so. You get the cosign from Chris Rock, or you didn't. He just was chill with it.
I got consent. From
Consent.
Chris Rock.
That's the word. Yeah, you got consent from him. So what was that experience like? You know, going from like just writing stand up for yourself to now like, oh, I got to write jokes for this guy who's like a legend.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it remains the toughest room that I've ever been thrown into, and I think some of it was just that I was very green in sort of my journey at that point. But I think the other part of it is like, it was a room of 15 people, many of whom had like real relationships with him, had written on his HBO shows and his previous Oscars. Hosting shit, like these people had a relationship with him, and then there were like 3 of us who had sort of been like hand-plucked for like just being the new guys that he wanted to try out, and I think Michelle Wolf was one of those 3.
Oh wow!
And she thrived in the room, and I think that probably made me feel also crazy because then it was like, well, she's fucking killing, and I'm eating my dick every day. But I think that's all part of what this process is supposed to be. Is like you're supposed to feel a weird competitiveness. You're supposed to feel like you're losing at times, and that forces you to ask yourself and everybody around you, is this the way that I'm meant to be pursuing things? Am I even meant to be pursuing what I'm attempting to pursue? And how can I pivot so that I can activate my superpowers rather than just be a victim of like, you know, somebody else's celebrity?
Yeah, I think people forget that like imposter syndrome is part of the career. Like it is part of it. You have to like find a way through it. And I feel like I always talk to people about it, how it's like a bad shroom trip. Like, you know that's coming, but you have to fight through it because if you don't, it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so. I think you just have to accept that like this is scary. This makes me feel sad or vulnerable or angry or whatever it is, and then figure out a way to activate yourself from that. And the hard part is for a lot of us, you don't really find that out until you're stuck in that moment, and then it calls to question a lot of things that how much time have you wasted? How many of these, your real relationships have you severed for this thing that doesn't make you feel good?
Yeah, and I think it's like part of it forever. I don't know if I've ever gotten like over it or ever get over it. I think it's just like a very humbling thing when you meet someone who's like just hilarious all the time and you're like, great, like I'll never be able to do this. You know, it's like, I'll never be this. You know, it's like, you don't have to be that. You could be your own thing. It doesn't matter. Like that person's thing, that works for them. You know, this works for this person. And so I'm curious, like post Post the Oscars, what was the sort of next? Like, were you still working as a teacher? Was this like the moment where you're like, "Yo, I'm out of here. Like, I'm gonna do TV."
Well, it's also it speaks to how stupid certainly I am, but I think a lot of us is my reps at the time called me to tell me that I had gotten the Oscars gig. They told me how much I was getting paid, and then I immediately quit my job.
Yeah.
I was like, that's hell yeah. That's enough for me to coast, baby. If that's where I'm at, then my new life is set. I'm good. And what you don't realize is that these checks, especially in Hollywood, come in
3 months later.
They come 3 months later.
Yeah.
It's not like an immediate payment.
Yeah.
So I'm like calling my reps every day being like, has that check come in yet? Because Papa did quit that job. I made you guys aware. But on top of that, they don't talk to you about how much of it is not your own money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you give agents, you're giving managers, you're cutting it in half because of the giant lump sums
In taxes,
in
too.
taxes
Yeah.
that we already are being paid. So like, you know, what I thought was going to be like game-changing money, which was stupid to think that that amount was game-changing in the first place. But even then, if I would have gotten the entire lump sum, it was stupid, but I didn't get anywhere near that. And so I really had to like...
job. I need it back.
No, I didn't go
Oh,
back.
good. Okay, good.
I'm very proud to say I didn't go
That's
back,
awesome.
but I did have to pull my pension from when I was a full-time teacher
Oh,
to
no.
like subsidize while I was like waiting to figure more things out. And I got very lucky that enough things started rolling and it never really stopped rolling enough that I had to like walk myself back into a, you know.
Yeah, so let's talk about that role, because like you're one of the few people that I think is dabbled a little bit in everything. Like, yes, you do stand up, but you're also like a successful actor and a successful writer.
Successful. I like that word.
Yeah, take it. Good, man. But it's like, you know, you get out of this Oscars thing. What was like the first big job after that? Like, what was the first thing where we were like, oh shit, okay, now we're going, you know?
I got booked in the pilot of Insecure.
yeah,
And
that
I
was great.
think that probably was like the next big thing that like really felt like, oh, this might be a signature level, you know, opportunity. And then obviously Insecure got picked up and I got, you know, I had a pretty good role in the first season. And I think that just like sort of laid the groundwork for a lot of acting opportunities that followed. And then with writing, I got, I think my first room was for Moshe Kasher's. He had a 1 month room for a pilot he was doing at Comedy Central called Problematic that ended up being like an entire season of a show, but I wasn't part of this season, but he had a mini room basically of like 6 or 7 of us just sort of writing for that pilot. And then Comedy Central watched that pilot, scrapped everything and like
Kill
gave,
it, but then bring it back.
but bring it back. And
Like a
you
Phoenix
know.
type situation.
Yeah, exactly. We don't like what you did, but we like
him.
you.
Yeah,
and we'd like you
Oh,
to ditch
no.
all those losers you had
Yeah.
and build a whole new team. And that's sort of how it went.
So I want to talk about both sides, obviously acting and writing. Let's start with acting because I'm really curious. Obviously, you came from stand-up, you were writing a lot more than you were acting. How did that process go? Was it freaking you out to be like, oh shit, like I'm booked on like a big show or like a big HBO pilot,
Yeah.
and I'm like a reoccurring thing, and assuming you hadn't done a ton before that, was it
No.
like, what was that like? What was that like? Was it anxiety? Like what was it?
Yeah, I still feel massive anxiety about all of this stuff now. Where do you put your hands? I say to myself constantly. Yeah, I think I'm not classically trained in any of this stuff. I didn't go to school for like writing scripts. I didn't go to school for acting. I've never really taken classes in any of the stuff. I just kind of have been bullshitting my way through a lot of it, and I think I feel very lucky that nobody's called my bluff yet, and I pray to God they're not going to analyze it too deeply after this comes out. But like, I think a lot of it is sort of fake it till you make it type energy, and maybe you know as well as I do that there are times where like you feel yourself faking it, and you're very anxious about the fact that you feel yourself faking it, but that's kind of what this business requires. You know what I mean? Like, to your point, they send us into general meetings with zero information, literally like nothing to be able to like show who we are or how to do it best. And you just kind of hope. And so like until you learn the ropes, you can't really nail it. And that's why everybody's first gig is not their dream. You know what I mean? Like
Even the first few, honestly, dude. Like, you just zigzagging forward until you get the good one, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel very lucky that like I haven't stunk it up enough that it's kept me from getting to keep trying and keep faking it until I ultimately make it, if that makes sense.
Did you feel like a notable change in your career, like post Insecure, where you're just like, oh shit, now like, did you have more confidence to be like, oh, people should take me more seriously now that I have like something under my belt?
I don't
like,
think anybody
tangible.
should take me seriously ever. I think,
That's also fair.
I think this feels pretty grand for what I do.
Yeah.
But I'd say that it certainly was a shift in terms of like I was getting recognized and like had a lot more of an energy around what I was doing. Even in relation to stand-up, people were like treating me with a little more of like a care and respect than, you know, you feel when you don't have any TV credits and there's nothing behind your name kind of thing. So it certainly gave that kind of shift. And I think the exciting thing, or rather we're talking about what drives us forward. For me, Insecure, I'm so grateful to have had that opportunity, but my responsibility in that show was not to be funny. My responsibility was to be like a love interest. I was like a nice guy who gets, you know, his feelings hurt and gets sent on his way kind of thing. And so for me, my goal has always been to be funny and be able to like, you know, have a signature, man, that was hilarious thing. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, this is cool, but I don't want people to remember me forever as like a nice guy who, you know, couldn't make it with a lady.
Boy,
Yeah.
Soft boy forever. What the hell
I don't
is
want to be
that? Yeah.
that. I don't want
That
that as
typecast
my
is-
career.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, it stinks.
But then, as the writing side, you know, you go from obviously stand-up to then Oscars to then was Moshe Kasher's show? Was that like, was it more like a stand-up-y type thing? Was it sketch? What was it? Was it narrative? What was the vibe on that thing?
The original premise of the show, and I'm not gonna speak to what it became in series because I wasn't really a part of that, but the original premise of the show that Moshe was playing with was like almost like a comedic Phil Donahue. So like taking on real issues with people, but then like having audience participation of people yelling out, being like, yeah, you in the shirt. I think you got a bad personality and this is why. And like really activating people to like be vocal in their sort of like participation in the conversations, the dialogue, right? Like it's not the Daily Show or nightly show where the talking heads are just talking to each other. It was like, oh, everybody is a character inside of this thing, which would have been really exciting. And then I think Comedy Central, and what a brilliant brand they've built, just I think felt differently about, you know, what the best strategy for that show was.
Do you miss like, because I know you also mentioned Adam Devine's like that show you used to do with like up and coming comics. Does it bum you out that there are not as many like avenues now to be like, if you're an up and coming stand up, like I guess probably because it's oversaturated because of the internet, like.
Yeah, no, I think it stinks. You know, it used to be that there were like 3 networks that like all were trying to figure out a way to create opportunity for comedians, improv, sketch, you know, stand up. Everybody sort of like had a route for like what this industry could build and become. And now I think because the internet is so wild, wild west, anybody can break, which is, I think, an awesome thing in some regard. But then on the flip, it's like, yeah, but we used to have like, and this is probably not the gentlest word to use, but we used to have gatekeepers for a reason. Like there was at one point a reason why we needed to like get vouches from, you know, a level of important person before we could make it on television. And now it's just like, no, I don't know. You had 5 minutes that like kind of went viral, so you are king, I guess.
Yeah, as much as people like say they hate them, I really like showcase culture because it made you want to work towards something. Like it's like, okay, I know that in June I'm gonna have to, or May or whatever it was, I have to showcase for JFL, which means I have this amount of time to get a whole new set ready I need to make it sing, and I need to get the best parts of it, and then to do it for that, so that people can see the best version of what I'm doing, and my voice and all that. And now it's kind of just like, just kind of throw shit at a fan, It's like just throw a bunch of shit out there and see what happens, And it's stressful, and it's like, especially if you don't like the internet, or if you don't like editing things or figuring out videos, or if you don't want your friend to have to come sit there in the front row like this, it's like. Yeah, it's like a little bit of a bummer, right? Like, it's like, do you think you would have stand-up would have been as appealing to you now if you started now as opposed to back then?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I have zero desire to be like a marketing genius. That wasn't what I imagined for myself, and certainly I understand the need. And so I'm not like one of these people that's like, nope, not gonna try. I can't. I don't give a fuck. It's not that, but on the flip. It's just no. I would have kept writing poetry probably. Nobody's going viral from their poems. Like, you just mind your business.
You might be the next one, dude. You might be the one. So I'm really curious because then you did move, obviously past Insecure and all that stuff. You were doing things where you were writing and performing on shows, right? Like Southside, for example, or was it Bust Down, right?
Yeah.
Too? What was that like? Like being on both sides, like. First of all, how did you parlay all your sort of experience writing all these other shows into now narrative, where you actually have to follow a structure, but then also like kind of keeping in mind like, oh, I might also be in this. Like, how does that?
Southside was really cool because they just wanted people from Chicago. Like they were hiring specifically were like looking for Black writers that are from Chicago originally or have like deep roots in Chicago. And so I got really lucky that like that was just I fit well within that target demo and met with those guys, and it was a great conversation. And so ended up in that room, and that room in a beautiful way, that show in a beautiful way was built on nepotism. Like Bashir runs the room. His wife plays his partner in the show. His brother is the star of the show. Those twins went to high school with them. Diallo is his writing partner and plays one of the other main characters in the show. Like it just is. His mom is in it. His youngest sister is in it.
I didn't know. That's awesome.
Both of his younger sisters are in it. His brother directed episodes and like played small characters randomly. Like they just were like, no, we're gonna rock with the people we know and make sure that everybody is eating off of this thing. And so that was dope. And so in that way, they also empowered the room to like everybody gets to participate if they want to. And so, as we're writing, you start to feel out characters that live in your wheelhouse and things that you feel like you could pull off or things that people are imagining you could pull off, and you plug and play. You know what I mean?
That's wild because I've had opposite experiences where like I've taken writers meetings where they're like, we know you're a performer, but you're not gonna try to like be in this, right? Like, they're like, you're not gonna like go leave and take an acting job. And I was like, absolutely not. This is my priority. Whatever you say goes. And it did. And there was times like early on in my career where I was like, oh, like I did have an opportunity or like a producer session or whatever, and I'm like, tell them no, I have to write. I promise these people. You know what I mean? And it's like it's so funny that like everybody's experience with these things are so different.
But I also hear that, and I know from experience, not from my own personal experience, but just from some of my friends, that like we're the stupid ones who like stay true to the rules that they're presenting in front of you. And the reality is, I have friends who've like been put on shows that from the first day just start writing a character for themselves. Okay. And they pitch it in the room, and if you have enough confidence and you put enough jokes behind whatever that initial pitch is, it might find itself, building into something. And that's the kind of confidence I've never had, but boy, do I envy it.
Now I feel like I need it. Because I remember my first room I was sitting there and I was like, I remember being like, the rule they told you was, don't write yourself a character, but if one comes up and you want to audition for it, you can audition for it. And I was like, that's a good rule. And I always...
That's a coward's rule.
Yes. Because then I've had other opportunities in shows where I was writing a lot of stuff and I never wrote anything for myself because I was like, you can't do that. And then when it came time to cast, they're like, well, there's nothing for you. And I was like, ugh. And I was like, dude, I'm going to like lose one. Like,
no, and that's the thing is like you don't have to write it for yourself, but I do think you have to write something or at least be open to writing something that like you can exist in. And does that force them to do it? No, but it when that moment comes and they're like, okay, well, who's going to play Johnny whoever? and they look around the room, sort of like seeking people. Boom, Marcos is an
I'm Johnny Whoever.
Yeah,
dude.
you're Johnny
Look at me.
Whoever.
Everybody knows I'm Johnny Whoever. right?
You've always been Johnny Whoever to me.
So you worked on. Sorry to jump ahead, but I'm
Yeah.
curious because I wanted to get to this too before we wrap. You worked on Everybody's in LA with John Mulaney.
Yeah.
Right, and you know it felt like very like fresh and a little chaotic, sort of like old timey videos, like what we used to do on the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What was your experience like on that?
It was great. John, I've been very fortunate to strike up a pretty good relationship with John in the past like year and a half, 2 years, and he directed my special that's coming out, which is really cool. And he's been like a very kind, supportive friend. And so when this came up, he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing for the festival, and it's just kind of gonna be me like taking advantage of the fact that every comedian I know is gonna be in the same place at one time. And so we're gonna, if you want to do it, I'd love to hire you to be a writer on this thing." And he similarly, and I guess I've gotten lucky with a lot of great bosses, but like he was like, "Yo, I kind of just want everybody in this room is a writer with like producer level credits and has run shows themselves. I want y'all to just make some stuff that you wish you could have made or have been like sitting on and are hoping to make. And obviously I can't make all of it, but I want to make something for each of you," kind of thing.
Damn,
And
that's
so, yeah, we just all wrote shit that we liked, and then he, in a very John Mulaney way, fixed it into something both that he liked and was funnier than whatever we liked. And so, yeah, I just got really lucky that a few of the ideas that I was like pitching ended up sort of getting turned into some cool shit.
That's sick. And when this comes out, your stand-up special will have already been out.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, like what, obviously you guys built a relationship there. How did that sort of parlay into your new special? Was it just like very natural? Like, hey, by the way, I'm doing something.
No,
Let's hear it. Long sip.
This is exciting. It's truly the only time this has ever happened in my career. But he and I got that relationship with him off of a cold email because Bust Down, a show that we made at Peacock that Peacock hated with all of their heart. What we made it, we loved it. Me, Jack Knight, Sam J, Chris Red, very proud of the thing that we made. But when it was considering a second season, or when Peacock was potentially considering a second season, Mulaney loved it so much that he was hitting us up like, "Hey, I don't know if y'all would be into it, but I'm kind of thinking I'd love to help produce this thing and like possibly come on as like a Danny DeVito fifth for like the four of y'all. Like, I really want to be a part of Bust Down. I like this show very, very much." And then Peacock was like, "We don't give a fuck. You're leaving. We don't like this product at all." And
crazy.
fair enough. Girls
Mulaney's
5 Eva
huge.
was much more important. And so they said, "No, thank you." Mulaney, was obviously disappointed by that information, but also was explaining to all of us just that like, "Yo, I have this production company I'm starting for live shows. If there's ever an opportunity in the future for y'all, for us to work together." I think he was speaking specifically around the Bust Down conversation, but like if that
I thought he was
exists,
to be like, I think he was specifically speaking to me though. He was looking
I
me dead
think
in
he
the
really
eyes.
knew who the star
And
of
he
the
was
show
like,
was.
if any of you are trying to do comedy live.
He didn't break eye contact with me.
Yeah, that's
Really
awesome.
ignored Sam. No, but he was just very clear that like, "Yo, I'm working on this. It is what it is." And so like as I was building this special and struggling to sort of like get it past that final hump of getting a network to not just hit me with maybes, the conversation started to happen of like, "Yo, maybe you should think about like EPs that we might be able to attach to this thing who could help put it over the hill, put it over that final hump." And he is my favorite comedian and like, just felt like the most ideal name to begin with. And so I sent him a cold email being like, "Yo, I know that you have not done anything like this. I know that we don't know each other particularly well and don't have a lot of reason to be working together. But if at any point you thought that this might be something you would want to do, what's up? And then 2 months later, he was like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. And
2
then,
months?
Yeah.
Was it like, did you have to like do it in front of him? Did you like, how does that work? Is it just like, so here's the thing, and then you just send
No,
him
I sent him
jokes?
an email.
With all the jokes on it? Or
No,
like,
just an
oh, he
email.
just said, yeah, I'm down, just based on the email. There was no like, he didn't have to show him any
Maybe the
material?
email had like a tape in it. It might have had a tape in it of like the hour I had been doing, which changed a ton in the time that between initiating contact to what we actually shot. But like, certainly it was just me being like, I am a huge fan. And I hope that, you know, there's some opportunity inside of this, and fully expected after that for him to be like, no, thank you. That,
Was it nerve-wracking, like, having to do it in front of him? Because he directed it, right? Did you have to, like...
Yeah.
Was that, like, nerve-wracking the first time you were like, all right, I guess I got to do this shit in front of him now. It's not just an email. Like, I got to, like...
well, so he was just coming on as a producer via
okay.
that original sort of like contact. And then he was very kind to let me open for him a ton.
Oh, that's awesome.
In the time in between. And so like we had been on the road together. We had built a pretty good relationship by that point. So like less nerve-wracking by the time I'm shooting. But certainly the first couple times opening for him were my nightmare of like, God, I hate to look in the wings and see a man in a suit so disappointed in me.
You're not doing that whole thing. Before we jump into the speed round, I do want to ask if you could give like any advice to anybody like pursuing things now, like stand-up or acting or writing in any category. What would be like something that you learned or that you were like, someone taught you that you were like, I gotta pass this on?
I don't know that someone told this to me, but I do think a nice accumulation of a lot of what we've talked about is try everything. Like that none of these things, you don't really know what you're good at until you sort of like do the thing. And a lot of these things that I would have been afraid to do and probably stopped myself from doing have also fed me a lot over the years. And so like, just if you think even for a second you can act, just go do it and try it and see if there's a little bit of a, you know, a thing worth investing in there, or writing, or, you know, stand up or sketch or whatever it is that sort of makes you feel like, oh, okay, yeah, I can keep going inside of this thing, because that's how you make relationships. That's how you explore maybe your more honest self. Like even bombing at stuff kind of helps you figure out like, oh, okay, I know why I hate that now, or I know why I'm this way, kind of thing.
I know this bad part of myself.
Yeah, this is now I have the words for what is awful inside of me, and I think all of that is a necessary part of the process. So just try everything.
Absolutely. And so let's jump into the speed round. It's probably going to be like 10-ish questions.
Okay.
Just quick, like 1 to 3 word answers. We'll keep it super quick.
I'll give you what I got.
All right, let's hit it. Least favorite job you've ever had?
A spammer for an internet company.
Oh, God. Okay. Most used emoji, and also describe it because people won't be able to see it. Some people won't be able to see it.
Black kid in a wheelchair emoji.
I don't know if I want. Do I need to unpack it? I think we'll just leave it.
No, you said 1 to 3 words.
No, you're right, and that's it. Current favorite TV show?
I just finished. You know what? I just finished Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I really liked it. And,
Okay.
And I was getting a lot of shit from a lot of people I care about for liking it as much as I do. But it makes me feel good. Like I watch it and I go, yeah, I'm not always laughing, but this makes me feel warm inside, and I like that. And yeah,
Good.
I need that
That's all you
feeling.
want from your favorite show.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure TV show.
I watch a ton of anime.
Oh hell yeah! Okay. This
I'm
one you can answer longer because I'm curious now.
Okay,
Which
well
ones?
I'm very caught up in the manga of One Piece, but
amazing.
I have not been caught up on the anime for years. Like I just stopped watching the anime, was only reading the manga, and so this year I've been like dedicated to like I'm gonna catch myself up.
Watch the
And
show before you watch the live action for sure.
yeah, I know it was very well received. I didn't love the live action.
It just like condenses a lot, right?
It condenses a lot, and it makes them a lot more like adorable than I think they're supposed to
Yeah.
be. But you know,
It's not bad. I liked it a lot. It's just like, I don't know. I think part of the anime is like you like the sort of build up, right? Like it's like one fight is 26 episodes.
Yeah.
Which like most people hate, but I'm like, nah, dude, there's always a twist.
Yeah.
There's always like a little bit of a twist.
Luffy has died like 10 times.
I mean, that's every anime though. It's like eventually you're just like, what if we kill him and he just comes back again?
Yeah, he
You know?
just
like,
pops
how many
back
times
up.
did Goku die in Dragon Ball Z? or
That's
Dragon
true.
Ball? It's like,
Yeah.
The dude dies like pretty much every season, and then they're
Right.
like, we gotta wish him back. You know,
Yeah.
it's just always like a weird loophole. Have you
Yeah.
caught up on any like the newer stuff? Like, have you watched like Jujutsu Kaisen, for example?
I'm caught up in Jujutsu
good
Kaisen.
is
I
that
love it.
show?
It's amazing. I feel so bad for the animators that they are hit with this task every week of like figuring it out. But get to work, fellas. 'Cause
I didn't know that
it's
like
great.
this is like a dumb thing, a sidebar. I promise I'll keep getting through these questions. But I learned this recently that like with the anime, sometimes it's manga is how you say it? Manga?
I think so.
Manga?
Yeah.
Sometimes the anime moves so fast that it catches up to the manga, and it used to be that these shows would like make filler seasons, which is why you would get these like elongated fights or whatever, like this.
Or this random bad guy that like has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the
Or
story.
like it'd be like there's a fight, and then all of a sudden this season they're like back at high school, and then next season they're back at. They would do these fillers, and I think My Hero Academia does the same thing.
Yeah.
And Jujutsu Kaisen is anti that. They're like, no. We're not gonna make anything until we've the manga has caught up, and then we'll continue.
Yeah.
And I love that because obviously there's the anticipation of it all, but it's just that show's so brutal. That show, like, they do not give a shit who's a main character or a side character or a villain or a hero. It's like, we will destroy everything in front of you for no reason. And you're like,
the
"God."
fact that we just found out who the main character of the show is
Yeah.
because of how many people are like they're willing to sacrifice at any time is like, oh, this is amazing.
I love it. I wish like normal like TV shows in the U.S. would like adopt it of like,
Yeah.
stop being so precious about like, well, we can't do that. That's a main character. It's like, no, dude, just let whatever the best thing is happen.
Yeah, no, if it's
Like, it's always like,
crazy,
we
let
can't-
it let it be.
We can't
'cause-
let them break up. It's like, no, just let them break up. They'll get back together. We all know it's gonna happen. you know?
Yeah, my favorite anime of all time is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
That's one I'm like slowly getting into now.
Okay.
I need to watch that and Neon Genesis, or Evangelion. Yeah, both of those I
Yeah.
haven't done. I don't know why. I'm just really slow.
I love it. I think it's amazing. It's so cool. But I think similarly, they were willing to kill off and do violent, awful things to characters you cared about, and that sort of drives story in a beautiful way. In a way that like some shows are afraid of.
And it gives you the freedom to like recreate the story. Like the amount of times I've seen like a show, not naming names, Heroes, where it's like the first season's so good, you know what I mean? And then you're like, all right, well, we accomplished that. What the fuck's next?
I like
you
that
know?
you're holding this grudge from 2008.
I'll always hold that. That's in the front of my chest. I loved Heroes. Granted, there was a writer's strike and all that bullshit happened, but it's like, it's like you love a show and it's so good, and then you can tell something happened. Like something went wrong where they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I only thought through the first season, or like, yeah,
That I think is the biggest symptom is like it's not even that they're unwilling to take risk. It's just that they didn't think through anything beyond like season one, and then when it becomes like this giant success, and you're dealing with executives who demand a similar sort of like outcome, and you go, oh, okay, well then I'm gonna kill the main guy, and they go, what the fuck are you talking about? He's a star now.
Or you
That's
do
our money.
Or you do the Heroes thing, like we killed the villain, and then like the first episode of the next season, no, we didn't. You
Yeah,
know?
surprise.
So it's like, come on, dude.
Surprise, he's back. And,
Surprise, he was never dead, and that was all a scam, and it was an illusion.
yeah.
First celebrity crush.
Stacey Dash.
Okay, and that's fine. That's fine. Last movie that made you cry.
Oh, last movie that made me cry. Damn. I don't have a good answer for that.
We can come back to it, or we can skip it.
Yeah, let's skip that one.
Okay,
I
we'll
don't
skip
I don't
it.
have a good answer.
Favorite website that no longer exists, or you just don't visit anymore. In
Oh.
any time period.
There was, and I'm gonna forget the fucking name, but I used to go on it. It was that website where you go on every day for a clip. Like
Clip of the day?
Yeah, it might have been. Maybe that's what it was called. But like every day you go there and they had like a new thing that was like, this is like today they put up like one clip a day. and you would go there and you'd watch that clip and you'd be like, that was funny or that was interesting
That's
or
what I felt
whatever
about
it was.
There was this amazing website that was just called bestofyoutube.com that would just aggregate the best YouTube videos
Yeah.
of the week or the month. You could like filter it or whatever. And I was like, this is great because I don't like looking through YouTube for shit.
No.
Like I just want someone to go, this one's good, watch it. It's like having a friend there. It's like,
It was
hey,
just
come on.
trending top. You know what I mean? Like they just did what now trending topics are for like, Twitter or Instagram, whatever. But like they just would consolidate it into being like, this is that video of the man getting kicked in the dick that everybody's talking about. And you would watch it and you'd be like, nah, I'm abreast.
He got his dick kicked.
Yeah.
Best fast food restaurant and what's your order?
I'm a loyal customer for McDonald's. I remain a big fan of everything that they do.
You say it to the camera?
McDonald's,
I am loyal.
don't change a thing. I like your style. I like the way you're killing us, and keep it going. I think it's between the 10-piece nugget barbecue sauce or a quarter pounder deluxe.
Okay.
I like all the. They used to have a thing called a Big and Tasty in
I remember
Chicago.
the Big and Tasty.
Yeah.
Wasn't that just kind of wasn't it like a
I don't think it
quarter
was
pounder adjacent?
national. I think they were called different things.
We had it in
depending
Florida. I know we had a Big and Tasty because that was my cousin's meal forever.
I think it was regional, like depending on where you were, they had a different name for it. But the Big and Tasty was my original McDonald's order, and then they got rid of the Big and Tasty, which is now just a quarter pounder deluxe. But at the time, it felt like they had stolen something really important from me.
I know it's a joke about the McRib, but my cousin really does text me every time it's back. I'm not lying. Like he will go, dude, guess what? And then send me a photo of like whatever destroyed amalgamation they give him because it never looks the same.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, it's back. And I'm like, dude, don't eat that.
I can honestly say I've never had a McRib.
I've never had it either, man.
And I do feel a little bit of shame about it, where I'm
I think
like,
it's
I
almost
should
like-
probably try that.
But if we've
motherfucker.
held out this long, it's like almost kind of cool that you haven't at all. you
Well,
know?
yeah, it just, I know that's not rib meat, and that's what scares me the most is like, whatever that is.
It's a different meat. Yeah.
It's just, it's
I'm
got to be a nightmare.
I've always been a filet of fish guy. I think I've been peddling
Shame
it
on
entirely
you.
too much. I love the filet of fish, dude. And we tried to unpack it in one episode where it was like it's the Latino Catholic boy in you that you had to eat it on Fridays. And I was like, I really don't think it is. I think I'm just a bitch for tartar sauce on fish. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, my mom, that was her order.
It slaps. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'll put barbecue sauce in there because it just gives it a little bit
No,
more
my mom
tang.
didn't do that. She's not a sicko.
well.
She just like filet of fish.
Trying things out. All right. If you could meet any comedian, dead or alive,
Any comedian, dead or alive, Bernie Mac. Yeah, I would like to. I'd like to shake that man's hand. Hell yeah.
all-time favorite comedy movie.
Ooh, Life. Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that I can still watch Life.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
It's so funny.
Damn. Drake or Kendrick?
I certainly Kendrick in the now sense. I think Drake probably has had more meaningful moments in my formative years, but I think Kendrick, if I'm thinking about it as an artist, I think he's a more talented artist than Drake is.
Animation or live action?
I like anime too much to root against it, so animation.
If you were cast in a biopic, who would you play?
Terrence Howard.
You're the fastest. I think you might have been the fastest we've gotten a response. People get like really deep in
Or
thought.
Jussie Smollett. If they do a Jussie Smollett movie, I'll do the shit out of that.
What if it's a biopic with both of them in it though?
Let me play both characters. Eddie
That's
Murphy
your real.
style.
That's your moment. Favorite social media platform from any time period?
Favorite social media platform from any time period? 2006 Facebook.
I just love that you gave a year. I thought you were going to be like 2006 was the best.
No,
social media. I was like, oh.
2006 Facebook, back when it was only college kids on there. And like you were communicating with people in a very genuine, sincere way. There wasn't like this weird hierarchical like value to like how many friends you had and like who had this and opportunity. It was just like you write on somebody's wall when you're horny and hope that they write back. And that was so nice. And I miss just the sincerity
You miss
of
horny
that time.
Facebook.
I
That's
miss
fine.
horny Facebook, y'all.
Yeah.
Bring back horny Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, what the fuck are you doing, big dog? You got one job. Bring back horny Facebook. No more political stuff. We don't care about the Russian inner work. No, horny Facebook.
Who is the funniest person you know? Doesn't have to be a comedian. Anybody in your life. Who's the funniest person you know?
The funniest person I know. My grandma just passed, but she was really, really funny. She used to. She lived before she moved into our house with us. She lived in this apartment that had roaches. And she would name the roaches.
Oh my God.
she would like try to kill him, and she'd like swing a shoe at him, and she'd be like, "I'll get you next time, George." And then she just
That's
because she was
adorable.
just living alone and going crazy, and it was
Yeah.
just very funny. And she was a nurse for like elderly people before she became an elderly person herself, and she would like come home with the paycheck and like cash the check, and then she would pour the money on top of herself, and then she would say, "Oh, Thomas, oh, Abraham," like she was making love to the money. She was just a
love
really
her. That's
silly
awesome.
lady.
That's really funny.
Yeah, she was cool.
Damn. All right. Well, before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to plug? It's the camera.
Oh yeah, I have a special. It is available on Netflix. It is called Bad Poetry. I am very proud of it. John Mulaney produced and directed it, and it's probably in the top 5 still. I would say it's probably still locked into that top 10, top 5 area now even. So yeah, you should watch it. Just keep it up there because it's viral.
So thank you to Langston Kerman for joining us. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Follow us for more content like this at Funny or Die. And a final question for my guest, one-word answer. The internet, good or bad?
Bad.
All right. Thank you for joining us. See ya.